This edition of Meet the Brewer was originally recorded on the 3rd of July and features Cahill from Rascals. I'm delighted to have him on board, and we got to pour a very, very special beer this weekend, 777, celebrating 7 years of Rascals.
Firstly, a huge welcome to Cahill here into, normally it's in Peggy's Parlour. Last time it was in Back Lane. Now we're sitting in Mother Mac's main bar in the corner because we got to run out of the back lane because of the weather. So in a very makeshift setup here. You'll be very impressed, MacGyver-esque almost in terms of running cables and how quick we did it. And Cahill is the man from Rascals, basically, you know. A Cork man, I believe, Cahill.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been stalking you all week just to see if there are any stories on social media that we can share. But I couldn't really find or dig up any dirt from you. You know, so you've either done a really good job at hiring someone to delete it all, or you've just been a really good boy, you know.
I try and keep the head down as best I can, you know. Anything that I do isn't recorded, usually.
Good. That's the way I have it, probably, you know. But look, as I said, you know, welcome here to Mother Mac's. We're delighted to have you to meet the Brewer. And, you know, we're delighted to pour your beer, and we poured your beer. We are in existence 5.5 years. I can't say that the last 15 months have been great. You know, we have poured some of your beer over the last 15 months on and off, but we've had your beer in particular as guest taps, you know, over the past number of years. I think one of the funkiest ones we ever had from you was the milkshake. It wasn't a stout, it was a milkshake IPA, was it?
The strawberry milkshake. We've done a few milkshake beers. Strawberry milkshake, or there was fruits and made which is mango and passion fruit milkshake, and a milkshake stout as well, chocolate milkshake.
Yeah, I think we've actually poured all three.
Right. Okay. Brilliant.
I think we poured all in our time.
Strawberry milkshake is one of our most popular beers. Like every year we bring it out, it flies like so.
Yeah. And like I suppose, okay, as Meet the Brewer goes, right, we don't normally kick into the brewery, we don't normally kick into the beers, right? We kind of kick into you a little bit because it's really about you, the person, and I suppose how you got into brewing and what we're doing before it and how you got into it. The passion that you have for brewing, because you know anyone who has survived the last 16 months of this madness, and in particular in the alcohol industry, must have a passion for it, because if they haven't, they've sold up and just run away to Vancouver or something. So that seems to be the place to go. But how did you start it all off? How did it all begin for Cahill?
Yes, in New Zealand. So I would have worked in the pharmaceutical industry before brewing, and studied physics in college, and then did a year working for Wyeth Pharmaceuticals up here in Dublin, and saved up some money and said, right, I'm going to go travelling. Went off to New Zealand, and the plan was to go there for 6 months. I ended up staying nearly 5 years. And while I was over there, again, working in the pharmaceutical industry, worked for Pfizer and Schering-Plough, we were making animal vaccines. So like that whole industry is very similar to brewing. You know, you're sanitizing stuff, you're cleaning stuff. I was working as an instrumentation engineer. So pressure, temperature, flow, maintaining pumps, all that kind of stuff. So it's all very, very relevant to brewing. And there's a couple of guys working in the plants that were ex-brewers. So just got kind of chatting to them. And then the whole craft beer scene was really, really taking off in New Zealand at the time, as well as home brewing. So kind of joined the home brewing club, ended up going to craft beer bars, tasting beers. And that's how it all kind of piqued my interest. So like first one out there, ended up going to Irish bars to meet Irish people, have drinking crap pints of Guinness because it was made over there and it was completely different to stuff we have here at home. And so I said, right, why are we going to these bars that are serving a substandard product? Let's drink some of the local stuff. Like, and there was a bar down there called the Malt House, which is owned by Tuatara Brewing, and like they had 12 or 15 taps. And I'd never seen anything like it, you know. Mad hoppy stuff, which is what most people get into when they start drinking craft beer. The hoppier the better. And then myself and my mate Brendan, another Irish lad from West Cork as well, said, like, let's give this home brewing lark a bit of a spin. So that's where the whole thing kind of started. And then obviously I met him over there, my wife, and she's big into beer as well. A lot of our dates were going to different craft beer bars and beer festivals and the like. So,
and just for the guys on the call and who's going to listen back to the podcast, right? It's very interesting that you mentioned vaccine, right? Vaccine manufactured, because
Yeah.
am I correct in saying that is they are manufactured by virtue of fermentation?
It depends. Yeah, some of them are. The first place I worked in, no, they're literally growing up cells. I guess it is a form of fermentation, and then they're introducing a virus to those cells, and then they'd kill it off, and then that became the vaccine. The second plant then was literally, it was pretty much a brewery, big, massive fermentation tanks.
Yeah.
Again, they're growing up cells, and then they would denature the cells, and then they would get packaged into whatever 1 liter or 2 liter doses for cattle and sheep. But again, it was all what we were doing as in engineering and maintenance was maintaining the equipment, so temperature control, annual calibrations on all the equipment. Any breakdowns in, you'd have to respond to. Once a month, you'd be on call for a weekend, so you'd have a beeper. Next thing, hopefully, it would never go off, but the odd time it would, you'd have to drive in at like 4 in the morning because some part of the plant had broken down. Like, so, I learned loads there, absolutely loads.
Without even actually realizing that you were learning how to brew beer, even though you were brewing vaccines.
Yeah, we learned how to fix stuff, which is very important when you're running a craft brewery because stuff breaks down all the time.
Well, I think that's half the battle. Yeah, I think that's more than half the battle. Yeah,
try and keep things going. If you ask any brewer, like you're trying to brew a special beer on a certain day, and like you're like, right, an 8-hour shift turned into a 12-hour shift because a certain pump is broken down, and you just strip it and put it back together or whatever.
Well, it's really interesting. You hit a couple of things, like time and temperature was one of the things you said, right? And we did a meet the brewer, probably about 2 years ago, and we had the owner of the company on, and then we had the head brewer on. And the owner was explaining to us how he nearly sacked the head brewer in the first week because he couldn't figure out what the head brewer was doing. So during the brew, the now head brewer was disappearing, and he was gone. And he'd come back. He was just kind of coming and going, and he was. And the owner said, like, "Well, eventually said, what is going on here? Like, I mean, you can't just keep walking away. You can't." And the head brewer said, "You need to relax." He said, "I'll show you." So
right.
on his laptop, he had created a time and temperature model for the brewing process.
All right.
And he said, "This is how we get efficiency." so he said, I need to log and I need to record this. He said, because you don't have online monitors for us. So he went, yeah. He said, take a step back here. He goes, yeah, okay, maybe I was a bit harsh. So it's really funny you mentioned just those two things, time and temperature, because they are probably the most critical.
Yeah.
So you started home brewing in New Zealand.
Yeah.
You got the bug, and then what happened?
So yeah, then we came home, myself and Emma, and I suppose in the back of my mind, when I was over there, I was like researching Irish breweries. Was there many out there? And there probably wasn't too many. This was like 2010, 2011. I suppose the big ones would have been Franciscan at O'Hara's. They're the ones that would pop up on Google, So I was thinking, I think in the back of my mind, like, could we do this? Could we actually start a craft brewery in Dublin? And my plan was originally to just buy old dairy equipment. I'd read a few brewing books and how guys had started like that over in the States, old dairy equipment or whatever, old pharmaceutical equipment. So when I came home, I kept working in the pharma industry, got a job, luckily enough, even though it was the height of recession, and was in the background researching how to build bits of equipment, potentially weld it. And I was going around to old scrap yards, looking at different bits and pieces. And then I can't remember how we came across it, but actually I was in Against the Grain in Dublin, and I met Stephen Flinch from Trouble Brewing, and I was telling him what my plans were. Like, he goes, the lads here from Galway Bay are actually selling their brewery. You should talk to them. And he gave me the number, so I rang the lads the next day. Drove to Galway that weekend, went over, looked at the equipment, came back. Myself and him had a chat and said, look, I think we can do it. We can just about afford to buy the gear, and made the lads an offer, and they accepted it. And that was in November 2014. All along, I was still homebrewing and joined the National Homebrew Club. Went along to those meetings, which were usually once a month. You'd bring along the beer that you'd brewed, sit down, drink it along with the other guys there, taste their beers, give each other constructive feedback, learn different bits and pieces, different tips. And they also ran competitions. And around that time, they ran it was Farrington's in Temple Bar ran a competition for a winter beer, and I'd brewed a ginger porter, so we entered it. And the prize was, if you won the competition, that Brewery in Meath would brew a batch of beer for Farrington's. So we're delighted we won that competition, and the timing was impeccable. So we had a name picked as Rascals. My sister's a graphic designer. She kind of done a design for us. We won the competition, went over to the lads in Brew. It's like, are you okay if we put our branding on the thing for Farrington's? Like, yeah, absolutely, let's go for it. And that's literally how our first beer was brewed. And that was November 13 actually. So, and at the same time, then we were chatting with the lads from Galway, Galway Bay, done the deal, and in February 2014, we brought the equipment over from Galway into a unit in Rathcoole in Dublin, just an industrial estate on the outside of the city. So yeah, like the timing for that was brilliant. Like,
can I ask, is that kid has moved hands at least one other time? Did that go to Lyman?
Lyman has it now, yeah. Yeah, he took it off us. He took over the whole unit. So we moved from where we were in Rathcoole into Inchicore, where we are now, and Mark took over the whole unit. So it was a really easy transaction for us and for him, I think, because like the drainage was there, a lot of the wiring was there. I know he changed a lot of it, and he's actually made it a lot better. If you look at it now, it's a lot cleaner and tidier than what we had it. And it was great for the landlord as well, because we ended up taking the unit next door. So we had 2 units out there. So Mark has the 2 of them, same landlord. Yeah. So it worked out nicely for everybody.
Yeah, no, in fairness, we had him as part of one of the Meet Brewers already. Yeah. And he had mentioned it all right. But I can't remember. Let's go back and listen. He said he got it from Brewer. Was the ex Galway Bay? But where did they come from before Galway Bay? Was it Brewdog?
They got it. No, they got it new from Dave Porter. He's a manufacturer of those breweries in the UK.
Yeah, that's right. Correct.
Yeah, so Galway had it for 4 years. We had it for 4, and Mark had it for like 2 or 3 now. Like, so, it's done its work.
Well, I was going to say, so then we moved into the well, I don't want to say the new unit, because it's an absolute colossus from what I can see. We haven't had a chance to visit yet, but I mean, there's pizzeria, there's brewing, there's shop. You know, you've opened up a bit of a garden up the front. I mean, the pictures look absolutely tremendous. Like, I mean, there's a whole huge amount of work going in there. I mean, tell us the progression to go from that smaller brew kit that you had in the 1 or 2 units up to where you've gone now, and I suppose what drove you to do it really, I suppose.
Yeah, well, we got investments. We were approached by these a couple of lads they'd set up Dublin Liberties Distillery here in Dublin, and they were selling it on. And we just met him at the beer festival, the big grill festival in Dublin, and they kept coming back to our bar and enjoying our beer and having the banter back and forth. I didn't know who they were, you know. And next thing, Pat gave me his card. He goes, you know, we're doing this whiskey thing, you're doing the beer thing, maybe we can do something in future. And we're like, kind of thought nothing of it, kept the card, rang him one time, and, you know, had a quick chat with him. Then about a year later, he rang me saying, do you want to sit down and have a chat? And one thing led to another, and basically they became partners of us with myself and Emma. So myself and Emma are owners, and they're also owners. And they actually own the building that we're in now. So it was amazing, really, that they came on board and helped us with marketing. Had the building. I suppose they had the vision that this brand could be bigger than what it was. So when they showed us the building, we were blown away by it. Like, we knew that when I saw it, you know, the size of it was class, and we were able to knock through the ceiling, so the fermentation tanks could go from floor up to the ground floor up to the second floor. So, like, you know, a lot of the big brewery tanks are quite tall. People are normally climbing ladders or cherry pickers to get up into them. We just walk upstairs, open the top hatch, throw in our dry hops and stuff like that. So from a layout and, I suppose, engineering point of view, I knew exactly what I would like to do with the space. And I suppose any craft brewer's dream is to have your own tap room. So, like, we knew that the front kind of part of the building could be a restaurant, pizzeria, tap room. And we went for pizza. Pizza and beer is a class combo.
We prefer chicken wings and beer down this side of the world.
Is that right? Yeah.
Pizza and beer does it as well, though. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, it sounds like, I mean, it is a tremendous good news story. Like, I mean, we've kind of followed it from when you're in the kind of the smaller brewery. When you kind of started publicizing that you were moving, and in the whole the movement of it. I mean, you obviously started with just yourself and Emma. How many staff have you got now?
How many staff do we have now? So, from a brewing point of view, there's myself, Josh, Bill, Dara, and Donald. So there's 5 of us there's 4 brewers, including myself, and then we've one guy in the warehouse who does kind of our logistics, shipping, beer, organising where we store the kegs and cans and stuff. And then in the restaurant side, then we've 3 chefs, a restaurant manager, assistant manager, and about 5 or 6 floor staff.
And marketing staff. And
yeah, of course, we have a sales guy, Jar, which you probably know, and then Joe's our marketing guy.
Yeah, because I mean, Joe, it really is a massive expansion to go from 2 to nearly. I think we've discovered.
But you need to, like, you know, we were doing it all ourselves at the beginning. It was very piecemeal. Like, you know, you're trying to do a bit on Facebook, and then you're going out and you're digging out the mash done, and then you're coming back in and you're doing deliveries. And I suppose we grew, like, myself and him as starters, and then we got a couple of brewers in. Like every hand and every person helps. You know, you can't do it all yourself.
No, sir. Jesus, look, come here. I'm sitting here right in a busy pub this evening. Albeit it's outside on the road, right? Except we're operating on the road.
Yeah.
Close the road for us, right? And I mean, we're like, what have we tonight? We've 6 staff on tonight. You know, so I mean, without those 6, like you couldn't do. So it is all about the staff.
And the labour for you guys has gone up, you know, because it's all table service, same as ourselves.
Oh look, we're doing right. I mean, the camera doesn't do me justice, right? I mean, you know, if I was to stand sideways, you wouldn't be able to see me, right? I'm that skinny, right? So I mean, like I'm doing nearly 30,000 steps every day, and that's the virtue of what we're doing. The lads are probably doing a little bit more because I have a tendency just to stand up and watch sometimes, you know. But there's this huge effort going in. But we're delighted to be open. We're delighted to be doing what we're doing.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, all right. So I suppose from initial concepts to where you are today, right? And I want to focus on COVID because, like, you know, I think you made a decision, and a lot of breweries kind of only made expansions during COVID-19 because they had time, they had downtime, and you know that this investment is the way to grow out of it and trade out of the kind of the madness that was COVID-19. But you had set the groundwork prior to that, right?
Yeah.
If looking back, right, in terms of the brewery that you've now built, or even the first brewery, what would you do different?
What did I do different? It's a tricky enough question.
Sorry, it's not me, Dick. It's not me. Okay, let me ask you a different way, right?
Yeah.
If you were to advise someone who was thinking of expanding their small brewery to a bigger brewery, what's the one piece of advice you'd give them?
Plenty of planning. The hardest part for us was keeping the old place up and running, and trying to build a new place. We were lucky with a couple of good brewers that kept it going in the old place, and then I was focusing on the new building. That took a lot of my time. But once we got the new place up and running, in my mind, it was great with the new brewery now. We'll just start brewing and we'll be grand. You know, it'll be tickety-boo. And that's when, you know, Lineman took over our old brewery. We'd finished with them. We started brewing the new place. It took another year to get it all running smoothly and tuned in nicely. Like, we were still making beer, but like it was long, hard days. I was going every weekend, Saturdays and Sundays, just checking on stuff. So what I envisioned was that with the new brewery, it's going to be, you know, like buying a brand new car. It's going to be perfect. It was far from that. So I would plan it, have a good overlap between closing down the old place or moving equipment from the old place into the new place, and then you'll spend another 6 months at least tweaking. I mean, I'm still doing it. You know, 3 years later, there's still bits and pieces that weren't.
I think you'll tweak for the rest of your life. I think that's just the way it kind of goes.
Yeah, but the first year was really tough. Like, it was. And like, I remember actually Rick from Kinnegar Brewery, when he had said that to me. He goes, "Oh, you'll find that first year really hard." And I was like, "No, what are you on about? Like, sure, we'll have a new piece of equipment to be grand." He was dead right. Like,
it's really funny, right? Because when we took over the pub, which is 5.5 years ago now, when we bought it, there's a good publican friend of ours who said you'll suffer from what we call, you know, new publican syndrome for the first 12 months. I.e., you'll walk around the town like kind of like a death stare, just from tiredness, you know, from overthinking things, from overworking, from taking everything on by yourself and not delegating as much as you should.
Yeah.
After that first 12 months, then he said you'll feel happier just to kind of, I suppose, release the reins a little bit, right? So on the aspect of releasing the reins, right? Because I mean, you're generating a lot of you know what, a lot of the funkier type of beers, right? You've a lovely portfolio in terms of the core beers, right? And like this weekend we're pouring an absolute fantastic Yankee voice. The Happy Days is beautiful, and then we have the 777, right, which is a fantastic beer. But you have also we mentioned the strawberry milkshake.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the stout that you brought out, right? There's been a whole heap of beers that have just been crazy. Even the no, I'm going to pronounce it right. The
Siamese Dream.
Yeah, Siamese Dream, which we had in Canada, right? I mean, and one of the staff here took home a couple of cans of it last night, and we've just been raving about it ever since, right? And then the first question was, why don't we have it on draft? You know, so have you released the reins to let the brewers at it, or is this coming still from yourself and Emma?
It's a team effort. I suppose myself and Emma might start off with the idea for not all the beers, but some of them. I mean, for example, Siamese Dream that you just mentioned there, I suppose it was an idea Emma had years ago of doing like a mango salsa kind of, so mango and a pale ale or IPA, but it evolved in once we started doing some trials, and we actually got the guys from Hopefully Brewing involved. It's a collaboration with them, so it ended up being guava, coconut, and lime in that beer. But you know, it started off an idea. Any of the other beers, again, maybe come from us the idea, but we'd say to the guys, right, do a bit of research on that, come back to us. We sit down, we look at the recipe together. We're looking, we have a pilot kit, a 300 litre little brewery that we can do these trials on. And very often, if we get a new hop, what we can do is we can maybe take some wort from the Happy Days brew and put it into the pilot kit, add some different hops into Whirlpool or dry hop it differently. So we're quite lucky like that. So we can trial and experiment constantly. And you might have seen as well recently, Josh, our new lead brewer, his first beer was a rice lager with lime. So it was really, really dry, refreshing, and a touch of lime. So like it's a combination. Ideas that they would bring to us, or ideas that we would pitch to the team and say, right, let's research this and then come up with something new.
And you know what, it's excellent stuff, right? Because you have a fine portfolio of beers, I suppose, under your belt at this stage. How do you decide? Because you've got some really good beers, you've got some core beers, and then how do you what to bring back, or what is it seasonal, or you know, like that like the milkshake one maybe is a little bit easier. Right? It seems like a summer kind of a beer, right?
Yeah.
How do you decide to bring them back? Is this public?
It's always a debate. Like, so we have 5 core beers, and then it's typically one special beer each month. That typically seems to be a good kind of rate where, you know, it'll more or less sell within that month, and then the next one comes along and they're not overlapping too much. What ones we bring back, like as you said there, the strawberry milkshake comes back every year. We've one there called the Big Smoke, which is like an imperial stout aged in whiskey barrels. But like, we're often going like, we should bring this one back, we should bring that one back, and very like, no, it's been done. You know, it was a hit at the time, and very often people will go, oh, it wasn't as good as it was last year or the year before, and we know for a fact that it is exactly the same, but people's memory of a beer can sometimes be a lot better than what it actually is. The nostalgia of it. So we like to keep it new, keep new beers coming. But a couple of those kind of hits we'd bring back, all right.
So you've led into the news, so go on. Tell us about the 777. That's brand new, right out.
Yeah. So we're 7 years in business. A 7% beer, and the main hop in that brew is an Idaho 7. So again, that was an idea that I had one day in a meeting. It's all right. Okay, July is our 7-year anniversary. We'd never brewed an Idaho 7. We had plenty of beers with it. So yeah, look, it's a good hazy IPA. You know, lots of fruity, dank flavors coming through. I'm pretty happy with it.
I'm going to hold my hand up and say, right, I had a taste of it last night, right? But at the end of a shift, right? At the end of doing 11 hours here, probably not the best time to taste it, you know. But I plan on taking 2 growlers of the home with me tomorrow evening, and I'm going to sit on Monday and just stop them in the backyard, either sun or rain. It's going to happen, you know, and I'm going to enjoy it because the reviews from the people who had it so far, both in point or in growler, have been exceptionally good. So
yeah, because you're actually the first people to have it. We're not even pouring it ourselves yet. We're launching it on Tuesday next week.
Yeah.
You're the first people to pour it, so that's cool.
No, and you know what? And it was funny because I said to Jared, like, I didn't want to do a whole thing of social media open, of course, to have it because I think it's fair. you know, but I mean, it was just look, we're delighted that you sent it in, and I'm sure the guys on the call are delighted as well. The lads over the back of me here are roaring and shouting, you know, and telling me what more. So we can talk about that later, but that's another point. Look, okay, right, I'm going to open it up to questions, right? Because again, I'm really conscious of everyone's time, right? And normally we don't move to this part of it as quick as we have, but it's just, you know, I'm looking at my guys and they're quite busy. I know that tonight, Colin, you were a little bit busy and you've accommodated us really, really well.
That's all good.
But let's open it up, right? So, is there anyone with any questions? Let's go for it. Keep it clean and no beer. Go for Gary.
Just, I'd like where do you think it's going to move on? Like sours kind of have had their day now, I think. So what's going to be the next big thing?
Next big thing. It's a tough one. Like we've found, especially in the tap room, that our best seller is Happy Days Pale Ale. The next best selling beer is our Jailbreak Lager, Hellas style lager, and we just released or a few months ago the rice lager, and they flew like. I think it might be going full circle. You know, people have gone from their really hoppy IPAs that they've ventured into sours, imperial stouts, and like I guess as they're learning about beer and learning about flavors, they can really appreciate when the beer is really clean and crisp.
Yeah,
and it's come back around. Like it's hard to hide any flaws if there is any in a lager. So when you get a nice, clean, crisp lager, like my point after work, if I had a tough day and I'm thirsty, is our Jailbreak. So I think that could be it. But like I'm not sure. Have sours had their day? I don't know. Do you think they were?
I thought they were coming about 4 years ago, and it's probably only now that they're really starting to come through. Maybe they have another year or two, but yeah, I just think that there is something else coming up. And I think you're right, actually, that good crisp beers are a big thing, because I'm starting to go that way myself now.
Yeah, I think it's because you learn that you've gone through all those big flavors, and like you may not have noticed any flaws or whatever in whatever beer before, but in a lager, like if you buy any German lager, they're flawless. Like, you know, Wine Stefaner and those kind of beers.
And just Paul, just to Gary's point, like, I mean, do you think that there's a movement away from the big heavy hitting ABV beers back to more kind of a sessionable ABV?
We find that in the tap room, yeah. We could have a really savage, like with an 8% double IPA there. I think last year, like it was really, really good, but it just didn't move. Like, you know, there was nothing wrong with the beer. It was too strong for people. I think, like, especially Irish people, we don't sit down and drink 1 pint. We might sit down and drink 4 or 5.
And just had a lot then in a question then in regards to the whole thing. Then, like, what influence does the tap room have on the brewery as such? You know,
yeah, big time. Like we meet with the restaurant staff once a week and chat about the different beers that are moving, what's going well, what's not. Especially because we have the pilot kit, so we can do a trial brew. We do 2 or 3 trial brews every month. So you get like 4 or 5 kegs off that. We put them on the tap room, and you're getting direct feedback then from the customers, which is amazing. You know, so like not all the pilot brews will be flyers, but you know, for example, Siamese Dream, when that went down, it was slightly different to what the final product was. So we can kind of go, right, it's a little bit too sweet. Let's add a bit more hops for bitterness when we upscale it. So yeah, absolutely, feedback is brilliant.
Hugh, let me just pull up this again. Hugh was after saying that he's definitely going back into crisp, clean, and delicate beers, the pilsners, and say maybe a lager. I'm genuinely going to say, right, that we're seeing it here ourselves a little bit in terms of the beers that are becoming more prominent across the breweries. You know, it seems to be lower ABVs. Now, when I say lower ABVs, right, we were all screaming out for 7-8% at one stage. We kind of seem to be 5 and sub 5 now percent. You know, with floating around the 4 to 4.5 seems to be the ideal ABV at the moment. And I think exactly as you said, people are looking for something that's clean and crisp to drink, that is not overly complicated. because sometimes if there's too much going on, it just becomes, I don't want to say difficult to drink, but difficult to
Yeah, like and it's hard to do. Like you're saying, overly complicated, and we're the ones who bring out milkshake, strawberry beers, and all the rest of it. But they can get muddled. You know, it's hard to get the balance right if you're throwing in all these different ingredients.
Yeah, and I mean, I like the idea of single hops. I really do. You know,
single hop beers, yeah.
Yeah, I really do, because I think, you know, you mentioned it earlier on, because you can't hide. You know, that there's no masking. It's either good, correct, or not.
The good thing about those the single hop beers, like you're educating the customer as well. If you go, right, this is a single hop Citra IPA, and they drink it, and they obviously getting those kind of Citra flavors coming through, and then the next one is a single hop Idaho 7 beer, or the next one is a single hop Cascade beer. They'll remember, like if they're into it, they'll remember, and they're learning each of those. And then next thing they'll pick up a can of beer that has Citra, Idaho 7, and Cascade. They go, right, the three of them, I like those three hops, or I didn't like the middle hop, I won't pick that up. But it is educating the customers as well, by when you're doing those kind of beers.
Yeah, and you just said it's season. He prefers in winter the big ABV because of the weather, for feeling crisp during the summer.
Yeah.
Any questions you want to ask? Very quiet tonight. What are the boys want? Oh yeah, what's next? They're asking me here. So
What's next?
What next? Yeah, I'm going to see you.
A bit of feedback there. We just brewed this week our second rendition of our Big Smoke. So that came in at like 7.5%. Whatever, it was 2 years ago now, and we brewed it there on Tuesday, and we really pushed it to the boundaries, and we got it up to 10%. And that's going to sit into barrel, and it's going to go into barrel in about 2 weeks' time, and it'll sit there for at least 6 months. What we'll do is we'll taste it after about 4 or 5 months. We start tasting each barrel, take a little sample and taste it, and when we feel it's ready, then we'll package it. So that's the one we most recently brewed. It won't be released until about January or February. Later in the year, we're looking at bringing out maybe kind of an autumn IPA, maybe something with kind of amber in color, maybe with some rye, like maybe a rye IPA. We're also going back to the lagers. So the Rice Baby, which is our rice IPA, or rice lager. Early in the year, we're going to do like an autumn lager, like a rustic lager, possibly. So.
Sorry, I'm finding it very distracting here because I'm sitting in the bar and people are going in and out. There's a little bit of feedback, so I do apologise. Yeah, Adam was asking me a question. What were you asking, Adam? Oh yeah, okay. I'll ask that one next. Hugh was saying it's a little like food. You know, the American style is just like the fruit, big flavors on the top of each other. Sometimes you want a celebration of one flavor, more like French cooking. I think that's a great analogy. Actually, I like that. You know, so do something. I don't want to say simple, because simple isn't the right way of saying it. But something that has the appearance of a simple flavor, but is very difficult to do. Rather than just loading everything up on top of it and having madness going on in the glass.
Yeah.
What's
Paul O'Loughlin's standard question? I see it there.
Pat O'Loughlin. Pat, type it in, Pat, because I forget what. Actually, come on and ask me, Pat. I forget what your standard question is. See there. Oh, the biggest mess up is, yeah, sorry, yeah.
The biggest mess up that we've done.
Yeah.
Jesus.
In brewing only, no.
Brewing only, yeah. We've had to dump a batch. I don't know, was it our mess up? We bought some new yeast from a crowd in Copenhagen, and it just did not turn out the way we wanted it to. It just became, it was almost like nail varnish. We had to dump that batch. Biggest mess up other than that? I don't know, getting too drunk at a beer festival maybe.
Actually, Adam was asking you a question there, and he said that if you could brew any beer, no expense spares, what beer would it be?
Any beer.
What's the one? If you go to your little notebook, right? Go to your notebook. What's the one you keep going back to? What's the one you underline that you'd love to do someday, but it's too expensive to do right now?
Well, I suppose when we just mentioned there was the Big Smoke. The first time we brewed it, we wanted it to be 10%, and then we came in like 7.5%. So we're pretty happy that we did that last week. I don't know, it's a tough one. Any beer? I'd love to do like a triple IPA or something, or maybe do like a Belgian quad. Really, really big beer, and age it for a Belgian quad and age it. Let it sit in tank or in keg for months and really round it out. The guys over in Mescan Brewery do a Belgian triple. It's a red beer. I think they brew it in like October and let it sit in the tank all winter and bring it out in May, and it's beautiful. And it's just time, let it sit in the cold.
I think what we've learned from the Meet the Brewers series that we've had so far, particularly with the Belgian style, time is key to this one. Just let it do its thing, and the beer will tell you when it's ready to
yeah, you can't rush it. Like you can't some of the beer like pale ales, you can make them in whatever 21 days or 30 days. But sometimes they need a little bit extra time. You just have to allow for that in your timing and scheduling and stuff.
Okay, so you has his hand raised there. You go and ask the question.
How's things? Thanks for taking my call, taking my question. This question is, like over the weeks of doing kind of various Meet the Brewers, we've had a few people who think that that the yeast is the most important part of the beer, and then we've had other ones who have been like, oh, this is the malt is the most important part, and the water. And we've had people who have played around with like cool ships and funky kind of mixed fermentations, and also what do you think is the most important part of the beer for ye and yeah, basically.
It's a combination for us. The yeast does play a massive part. I suppose we learned that over the years as well. Like different we've three main yeasts in the brewery. So like American Pale Ale yeast, which is all our IPAs, Happy Days Pale Ale. The Yankee Wit is a Belgian witch yeast, the Yankee White, and then we always have like a New England style of yeast usually for specials. But it's a combination of everything. We can't have one without the other. I would say. You need to have a good malt base. It needs to be totally balanced with the bitterness from the hops, the dry hopping, and then your yeast plays. They all tie in together when it comes to flavor. But like some certain styles are. It depends, like as I was saying there, the Belgian style beers are very yeast dominated. Those flavors, those cool ships and stuff, that's just mad, funky bacteria and stuff getting in there. They're providing all the flavors that we're enjoying. It's a combo. It depends on the style of beer you're making, I would say.
Just Gary, a question there. What beer are you drinking from another Irish brewery at the moment that you're really enjoying?
I mentioned Mescan there because we were over in Mayo there about 3 or 4 weeks ago. Really enjoyed their beers. We have a little beer club ourselves amongst the brewers in Rascals. So each week, one of the 4 of us or one of the 5 of us will bring in a beer for the other 4 or 5. And there's been some really good ones. Currently, I have a bottle of the Porterhouse Celebration. I think it's like a 10% beer. I'm sitting in the fridge for about 2 or 3 weeks. I've been afraid to go near it. Looking forward to that. I always enjoy Kinnegar's beer. I think they're brilliant. There's just they're just really, really well balanced.
Sorry, phased out there on my side. Okay, excellent. So, is there, in the absence of any other questions, I know John Noel has just joined us as well. John's in late. In the absence of any other questions, I'm going to call it an evening. I think we've taken up a lot of Paul's time.
I'm happy to do it, lads. No problem.
We look at it and understand that, yeah, 100%, yeah. And I'm kind of more conscious of my own time as well because we're kind of tipping away here. So, does anyone else have any other questions? No? Okay. No. Yeah.
Well, look, thanks again for hosting us. Look, it's always great to do these online chats. It's obviously better in real life and with real people. So hopefully we can get down to you guys sometime and do an event in house.
Yeah, look, I think that's definitely feasible. I think we're working at the moment on planning some sort of weekend that we can bring down a number of brewers that have done Meet the Brewer and do something a little bit different because Meet the Brewer has been done at this stage. So maybe we'll call it a bit of a mashup or something like that. Yeah. We'll sit you all around the room and give you boxing gloves and see who wins. Right? So you can get practicing now if you really want, right?
Get in training, so right?
Okay, on that note, Carl, I want to say a massive thank you, right? Number one, for the beer that you produce, right? It's absolutely fantastic. Number two, for giving us a keg, a very exclusive keg of 777, which the guys and girls have been drinking since Friday, and on the call are drinking it probably now. You know, if I've been very fair, it's almost empty, it's almost gone.
Right, okay, great to hear.
I would very, very much suspect that if today hadn't been a little bit of a washout here in the city, it probably would be gone by the time we were doing Meet the Brewer, because it was moving very, very well yesterday. But just numbers in the bar, and in the bar, sitting outside the bar, on the road, on the lane, just haven't been what they normally would be by virtue of the weather. But yeah, other than that, every time we get beer from you, it's great. It moves fantastically well, and customers really, really respond to it really, really well. So just keep up what you're doing.
Cool. And look, anytime you're in Dublin, give us a shout, and we'll show you around the brewery. Or if you want to bring up a gang as an event, again, happy to show you around and have a few beers.
You will regret that. You will regret that, because there's already talks of jumping on a train, and going up and doing maybe two breweries, or not three breweries in the space of a day or two.
Yeah, well, there's a few of us close together there, so yeah, it's definitely worth doing.
Yeah, so there was talk. Exactly, there was actually talks of trying to get into Mark and Lyme and into yourselves then as well. And,
yeah. Third Barrel are probably about 5 minutes away from us, and then Dock Brewery are probably 5 minutes the other way. So you couldn't make a day of it if you wanted.
The lads in the provinces then aren't too far either. So
yeah, their pub is cool as well, actually.
So there's a right good day there. It might actually be a staff day out next.
It could be 2 days if you play your cards right.
3 days. But on that note, I want to thank everyone for joining us. Without you joining us, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. Without you buying the beer, Carl wouldn't be here to have his job. He wouldn't be able to supply the beer to us. We wouldn't have our job, and you wouldn't be online here enjoying it as much as you are, right? So just everyone keep doing what they're doing. There is light at the end of the tunnel. We are open. There's a laneway full of mad people drinking mad beers, which is great. And hopefully in the next coming weeks, maybe months, indoors will return, and when that is the case, we all get to sit down together properly and meet and talk and discuss beer. And on that, have a very good night, everyone, and thank you again.
Okay, thanks, Les. Bye-bye.
Thank you to everyone who's joined us to Meet the Brewer. Huge thank you to Cathal, to Rascals and all his team. Thank you to Ger, who works in sales, who coordinated with us and the guys in Grand Crew to ensure that we got a delicious 777 this weekend. We're very, very happy and delighted to have it and exclusively have the first pour of it. Again, without you, we wouldn't be able to pour the beer. Without the customers, we wouldn't be here.